games are interactive experiences, but that doesn't mean they allow you to do anything. More often than not, game developers will set some boundaries for you, like unreachable areas or impossible boss fights that you are meant to lose. However, as is usually the case with curious gamers, some can find a way to overcome these barriers, and although most of the time that just breaks the game, in rare cases, the developers are actually prepared for it with a special secret ending. These developers are always one step ahead when it comes to knowing what their player base might try to do, and we all get rewarded for it. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 secret video game endings for doing the impossible. Number 10. Developer Ending, Krono Trigger. Krono Trigger is a classic JRPG about a group of unlikely heroes traveling through time to stop an alien parasite from sucking the world dry. Fighting this guy early on without the skills and knowledge you acquired during your time travel adventures is meant to be an impossible challenge that leads to a bad ending where the giant lava destroys the world. However, as years of speedruns and exploits have proven, this impossible fight is actually winnable, even without relying on New Game Plus features. If you manage to bend the rules of the game a little and bring down Lavos in the intro, you get a secret developer ending where in-game depictions of the actual creators of Krono Trigger invite you to their studio and congratulate you on achieving the impossible. The ending is a huge interactive experience that's unlike any other ending in the game. It's also filled with tons of gags and inside jokes that make beating impossible odds absolutely worth it. It's nice to see developers be good sports about people messing with their game, for a change. Number 9. Spare Bosses Ending, Sifu. Sifu is impossible as it is. The level of skill it takes to beat even the first stage is high enough to make a lot of players quit, and the difficulty only increases from there. The game's goal is to defeat the 5 bosses responsible for killing your character's father, which, again, is incredibly difficult. But to get the secret true ending of the game, you have to do something even harder: spare them. To figure out how to spare an enemy is already tricky on its own, given that the game never mentions it. To actually utilize the mechanic borders on impossible, as it requires you to not use the kill prompt when fighting a boss, and then break their structure twice in order to unlock the spare option. What this means is that the already long and intense fights with the bosses become even longer and insanely difficult. And you have to do this with all 5 of them. The ending you get this way is way better though, as it implies your character was brought back to life by the main villain. Well, it's hard being the good guy, but it does let you end things on a high note. Number 8. Don't Fear the Reaper, Cyberpunk 2077. Don't Fear the Reaper is a secret last stand ending from Cyberpunk 2077. It can be triggered as a hidden dialogue option during the pivotal moment in the story if your affinity with Johnny Silverhand is high enough. In this ending, V decides to go down in a blaze of glory and storm Arasaka Tower alone, in a last-ditch effort to take down the corporation without risking the lives of their friends. The ending is special in that it's the only permadeath mission in the game. As soon as you enter Arasaka Tower, the game will not let you save. And if at any point you die, the game considers the hit a failure and goes right to the death ending. Also, you can't heal. Yeah, it's a tricky one, but in my experience, so damn worth it. Given the stakes and the literal army of mercenaries in the tower, finishing the job seems impossible, and while it is for most players, it is secretly doable. Making it through the tower alive unlocks the true ending, where V single-handedly crushes Arasaka's forces, becomes Night City's legend, and saves all their friends from dying in the process. It does feel very good to be a one-person army. Number 7. Kill the Patriarch, Wasteland 3. In Wasteland 3, your goal is to defeat and arrest the 3 rebellious children of the Colorado Springs leader, the Patriarch, in order to secure an alliance with him. However, if you don't want to do all that, you can always just defeat the Patriarch himself as soon as you see him. Yes, although the Patriarch is one of the possible endgame bosses, you can backstab him right away in the intro to the game. Possible to backstab, but impossible to defeat, as the fight that follows soon after is programmed to be unbeatable at the low level you are at the start of the game. That said, the developers have actually included a secret ending for those who defeat the Patriarch early, in case anyone managed to cheat the fight. Of course, since the only way to kill the Patriarch early is to exploit the game, the ending you get this way is actually a song about how much of a dirty cheat you are. What, you thought that you'd be able to get away with bending the rules to beat the boss you aren't supposed to? Well, not according to this game. Number 6. Killing Ganda in the intro. Two Worlds. Two Worlds is an old-school action RPG about a mercenary searching for his kidnapped sister. The game only has one ending, but there are actually two different ways you can achieve it. One legitimate, and one that allows you to get the ending in the first 20 minutes of the game by killing its unkillable villain in the intro. The main antagonist, Ganda, is secretly hiding amongst the population of the starting location village. At this point, you're not supposed to know who he is, and even if you did, you'd have no way of defeating him as he's way more powerful than you are. Except, you don't actually have to fight him yourself. With a little use of exploits, you can trigger the local village folk to aggro him, and then watch as the villain is swarmed by a horde of angry pitchforks and torches. The angry mob can take down Ganda with ease, and his death in the intro will actually trigger the endgame cutscene, allowing you to reach the ending without even stepping out of the starting zone. Of course, there's no difference in the ending, but just the fact that you can do it so early brings a whole new meaning to it. Number 5. Unplugged Inside. Inside is a deeply atmospheric but enigmatic game where half the time you don't really know what's going on. If you've played through it at least once, you know that it ends with your character merging into a giant human blob. What a great game. However, there's another secret ending that requires the player to do so many specific things along with solving incredibly cryptic puzzles that reaching it borders on impossible. To get the ending, you first need to finish the game normally and then deactivate 14 hidden orbs scattered all over the map. This will only get you started, and personally, I tried to do this one with a guide, and it's still a huge hassle to find them. Once the orbs are deactivated, you need to find a secret bunker in the cornfield in the farmlands area and open the entrance to it using a 14-input long tone sequence based on the sounds made by the VHS machines near the 3 out of the 14 orbs you've found. How anyone would figure all of this out on their own is anyone's guess, but should you follow these steps, you get to see the ending where your character unplugs himself from the mind control machine, taking away your control over him. Yep. The twist is that you, the player, are the bad guy. But let's be real, the true evil is whoever came up with this insane puzzle. If you're like me, you probably tried it out and then watched it on YouTube. Number 4. Beeless Run, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair features the impossible, not just in the title alone. The game's secret ending offers a special challenge for those who like to defy the odds by going straight to the final boss, capital B, without collecting a single bee. When you play the game normally, you'll want to visit all the levels in order to collect a battalion of bees, which then protect you from getting hit during the final level of the game. However, the Impossible Lair is accessible at any point in the game, so if you want to, you can attempt to fight the boss right away. The challenge of beating the lair is, as the name suggests, impossibly hard, as even with 48 bees to protect you, you can still get a few game overs. Without a single bee to tank a hit for you, the challenge can only be done by those with exceptionally good skill or a hell of a lot of luck. In either case, the reward for beating the final boss without collecting a single bee is a special ending cutscene where the two main characters sit down and relax as though nothing has ever transpired in the game, because technically, it hasn't. Number 3. Grim Reaper, Way of the Samurai 3. Way of the Samurai 3 tells a classic zero-to-hero story where you start off as a newbie katana wielder and then become one of the greatest swordsmen in feudal Japan. Except things don't always end on the hero side of the story. The game features 22 different endings, and one of them requires you to use your awesome power to fulfill a feat of impossible cruelty. That is, kill everyone you ever come across. The Grim Reaper ending, as the name suggests, is the ending in which you kill every single NPC in the game, and that does mean every single one. The ending is impossible to get without a guide, as some characters only appear if others are alive at a specific moment in the story. So you have to time all of your murders perfectly, and if you slip up even once, it's back to square one. Becoming the Grim Reaper is easily the most amazing feat you can achieve in Way of the Samurai 3. Although don't expect an amazing reward for it, as the ending is just a slideshow describing how much of a menace you are, which you probably already know by that point. Considering there's no one left alive to act out a better ending, I suppose it makes sense. Number 2, killing Heldalf too quickly. Tales of Zesteria. Tales of Zesteria is an action JRPG telling your typical fantasy story of a young chosen protagonist discovering he has hidden powers that can save the world. He just can't use them too quickly. The game's primary antagonist is Heldalf, a powerful Hellion whose sole existence threatens the world. Your goal is to defeat him before he can bring about calamity, but the thing is, if you're a little too efficient with it, you might actually get a secret bad ending. You see, Tales of Zesteria expects you to beat Heldalf in the final mission, but there are other fights with him besides the final confrontation. And although he's meant to be an impossible boss early on, you can technically do it if you have the right strategy. The developers have actually prepared for this though, and the ending they have in store for those who humiliate the big evil bad guy early is also pretty humiliating. Because defeating him early is done without the right story powers with which you're supposed to banish him properly, the game considers it a Pyrrhic victory, as Heldalf's death releases his evil into the world and plunges it into chaos. I mean, if he could do that all along, why did he even bother to fight you? Number 1, Urizen, Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry 5 starts with a mock boss fight with the game's primary antagonist, Urizen. You're meant to lose this fight in order to jumpstart the rest of the game's story, so naturally, the developers expect you to lose. That said, Urizen isn't actually unkillable, he's just really hard to kill. Yes, although the intro Urizen is just as strong as his endgame counterpart, while you don't have any of your fancy powers yet, you can secretly take the Demon King on and win the fight. It takes a lot of dedication, as you don't deal much damage and Urizen can bring you down in seconds. But if you manage to survive around 10 minutes in this hopeless gauntlet, you might be able to kill Urizen and unlock a super special ending for those who beat the odds. The ending is a simple fade to black credits roll, the joke being that without Urizen beating Nero, there isn't much story to tell. However, it also comes with an additional unlock in the form of a harder difficulty setting, since clearly you need that. It's all pretty simple stuff, but at the same time, you have to admit, it's pretty hilarious how it all just ends without any flair at all.